get out. I get out of.
Uabe, brothers and sisters. I pray all is well with you and yours. And please know we greatly appreciate you joining us today on Doing Life with TNT. As always, I'm Brother Tezwan, and this is my beautiful wife,
Tandra. Today we are fellowshipping and exploring a topic we know you need an answer to. We welcome you.
Uabe.
I get out of all your boxes. I get out. You can't hold me in these chains. I'll get out. Father.
So I guess this has been a topic that we have touched on a couple times, and I've pondered it. I've pondered it a couple times, I should say. Hold on. And I think what I came up with in terms of this particular topic was, are we the demons we know? In the sense that demons are something other than what is out there in the environment. And for me, when I look at a demon that most of us have carried and had with us our whole life, these are the lies that people tell or we tell, whether to other people or to ourselves. So, as a second video or second topic, I felt like this was an appropriate topic to bring up and have a conversation about. So when I'm talking about lies, these, I guess initially what I'm looking at and talking about is the type of lie where you don't have to tell a lie, where it's a lie in the moment. But you choose to lie anyway, and it's a choice. And for me, most of the demons, if not all of them, are choices we make. Because everything in the life, whether good or bad, is a choice.
Right.
So how do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
So when you bought it to me and the way you said it, it was like a demon. So it's like naturally you want to say, what are you talking about? Like, but in reality, it's like, no, it's not the made for TV, like the ones we've seen from childhood on into adulthood. Is like you said, it's the choice.
Right.
Like the right thing to do, but you decide to do the opposite of that.
Right.
And it's wrong.
And so with that, I think it's important that we kind of, I guess, distinguish. So you have several different types of lies from my research. You have, blatant or outright lies where, it's where you tell a lie like the sky is red when it's clearly blue. That's a blatant outright lie. Or another type of lie that people commonly tell is what's called a lie of omission. And this is a lie where it's not a blatant lie, but it's a lie where people leave out information. One that come to mind that I know is common, especially in couples, is when a man is out there cheating. Woman to ask him, you got a wife, you got a girlfriend, and they'll say what? The woman that asks, do you have a girlfriend? And he'll say no, even though he has a wife. So, it's a play on words, or
because you didn't ask specifically.
Right, you didn't ask specifically. Yeah. And so it's leaving out the information that's being asked about, or just even if it's not being asked about. And the other type of lie is what they call an innocent or a white lie. So, and I guess I I kind of get technical, because I don't want to. I don't want people to think this is petty gossip, and that's still like just make up stories, just to be making up stories. But that would also fall into the innocent white lie. Like I think we had when we had the conversation originally. You had mentioned about your tap dancing, right? That was the one that you mentioned. You want to talk about that?
Oh gosh. So I actually had to get a lifeline on this one because some things I didn't remember, and like far as how old we were pretty young, and it was just one of those lies where you hear other people talking about what they're doing, what they got going on, extracurricular activities, if you will.
Right.
So me and my sister were like, okay, let's just say we take tap dancing. And what I found out was we had these shoes that I don't know if they were just the way that they were made on the bottom, but they didn't have that the metal plate on the bottom, but they were loud enough to sound like it. So I didn't know that part at the time. So telling somebody else that that's what we do from the small town from, who's gonna go and ask about this stuff? It wasn't something that was like everybody was doing. It was just something that we knew nobody wasn't doing. We've seen it on TV, and it was like, and honestly, we really wanted to do it, but that was the lie we told. And for a while, we was in that lie. And it was like, okay, I think I started asking, like, well, what if somebody wants to show up? Like, so my sister, I think either me or her was like, I mean, we can show them, but they won't know what the sound is. Like, we can show them the movement of the foot movement. And I mean, like, looking back at it now, it was one of those little white lies. It was funny. It's funny now, but at the time, you're young, you're a little kid. I think she said we were probably kindergarten, first grade, somewhere in there. But it was the fact that we actually came up with that, and we didn't even have to do that, right?
And you said nobody ever really challenged y'all.
Nobody
right?
challenged us, and that's where the question for me, or either her to me, whichever way it was, what if they asked?
Right.
And we had a cover up and all. So it was like, at that moment, it was like, why? Like, why did we do that? And I think it was more, again, like I said, with other kids, you hearing their extracurricular activities, and you want to make yours sound better than theirs.
Envy. Right. So I have a similar, story about similar age. I don't really totally remember what age or grade. I had to be less than 8. Yeah, I had to be less than 8. But I remember similar. My situation was a lot different than yours. Moved around a lot. Between kindergarten and 12th grade. So in one of the scenarios where we were living in, I think it was in North Carolina, and went to a new school, was a new student, and at the time, karate was really prominent on TV, and so I remember going into this school and telling the kids that I practiced karate, or I took karate class. And I think I can't exactly say how long that lie lasted. It probably was about a month. And then I think another new student came in, and he actually did do karate. And me and him didn't have an encounter or a confrontation or nothing like that. But it was one of those things when you got two people saying the same thing. Of course, people, even at that age, expect you to kind of have some commonality or common ground. And, because my situation was rooted in a lie, I couldn't give them what they wanted. And so I, in essence, was exposed. And I think, and I guess the point to this is that, you know, some of the lies we tell, like I think when we discussed this the first time, you realize nobody taught you to tell that type of lie. It just kind of, you just kind of do it. Um, and it's not that is is like super bad, like nobody's dying, but it's one of those things when you get in that way of doing it and it become a part of your behavior and your practice, you find yourself again lying about stuff that you don't necessarily need to lie about.
Yeah.
And so, again, bringing that up was just to kind of point out, these so-called innocent white lies, and looking at
Where
how
it
long,
started.
right, how long we've been doing it, and where it started. Because a lot of times you don't think about, man, I've been lying like this all my life, and in some cases it is a detriment. One of the things that as I've grown older, um, I won't say I don't have patience for it, even though I don't. When I really think about it, is when folk tell them I'm too busy, or I'm tired, or I got I just it like that's a quick way for me to turn my ears off and not listen to you. Like I'll hear you, but like and yeah, I recognize people have lives, but most people ain't that busy. This is the what I would call the hustle lie. You know, you trying to you trying to hustle me and make me feel like your situation is way more than it is. When in reality, you going home when you get off work and you in front of the game and your wife cooking, and like, man, you ain't even gotta lie like that. Like just be real, and if you couldn't make it, you couldn't make it. Like you ain't gotta make up
I just didn't feel like doing
BS.
that.
Yeah, and so like for me, like I that type of lie. As I've gotten older, I learned to recognize it, and I think when we talked about it, you called it
The family lie.
Yeah.
And this one is like, not like, this one you tell the kids, or not even tell the kids, you can just be telling somebody, I don't know, somebody you kicking it with or whatever, man, family is everything. But now your kids are gonna see you avoiding these family members, and it's like
your mama calling you.
Yeah, or your uncle calling and you just looking at the phone, and it's like your kid is like, your phone ringing, because kids will tell you, why you answer your phone? Your phone ringing.
You look
Start
at
that.
look at your husband, be like, he be like, why ain't that your mama? Or your sister or your cousin.
Yeah. And then because sometimes you will just tell them, I didn't feel like picking up the phone.
You're right. But would you tell, like, when you do eventually answer the phone, would you tell the person? Like, I had that situation the other day. Rather than lie, because we had talked about this, I just text the person, and it was on a holiday. The person was like, just not in the mood to talk. And I don't know if the person got any feelings or nothing like that. I never circled back to find out. And I don't feel like I need to apologize because I told the truth.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the mood to talk. I was in the middle of something. I was enjoying my holiday with my wife.
Now, if I'm in the middle of something, I'll text you and tell you I'm in the middle of something. I'll call you later. Now, later might not be that same day.
Right.
Later might be the next day or the day after that. And it's not that you just didn't want to do it. You might have forgot. But then you get more excuses. Like
when the excuses is just or the lie is rooted in laziness or procrastination. Like that's when it's when it's like, okay, come on, like, because at some point I'm gonna identify. All right, and we just had that conversation too. Like when you really don't want to do a thing, and it ain't because you can't do it, It ain't because you don't have the means or the money to do it. It's because you're just lazy. Like you lazy, you don't want to do the work. It's like they say, faith without works is dead. Making that thing come to you, like if you don't do the work, it's gonna be where it's at.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, um, as I often say, you know, don't talk about it, be about it. Or another thing that I often say now is God knows all, but it's by what we do that He sees us. And so, for me, is my doing or your doing should reflect your saying.
Yeah.
And in that, there's many ways to manage and track this thing. One of the ways for some of the stuff, that I struggled with, where I would tell that white lie, seemingly white lie, was with like calling people, and they'd be like, "Why you ain't call me?" And you'll tell, "Oh, I was busy." And you weren't really busy. Just like on the holiday, I wasn't in the mood, and so it's like, but with certain people, I made it a point to set in my phone a reminder in my calendar to call a person, and I don't always call, and hell, they don't always call me, but I call them way more than they call me. But it's one of those things, I control what I control, and in that, setting that calendar reminder, it helps me avoid lying, and it's like, okay, I didn't answer the phone. Where you could be holding the truth, where it's like, I didn't answer the phone when you called. I was in the middle of something, and then I knew I was gonna call you tomorrow or later on that day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been kind of one of the things that I've done. What you think about that?
I think it's a good idea, especially when you're um, doing things like you're trying to be better at not doing the lying,
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, okay, I'm gonna set this at, like you just said, set this at a certain time, even though I might not do it, it's
Mm-hmm.
still there, and
Right.
it's like, okay, all right, I didn't get to it today, but there's always another day. You know what I mean? Like to try again to keep you on track, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not lying to yourself about what it is that you need to do, because it's right there in front of you.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the next type of lie, and this is a little bit more deep, it is these. I think illusions is how I would identify them, or um, yeah, I think illusions is the right word. And these are the lies where I think an example would be where you say you can handle something. You say you can handle something, or you say, "Oh, I'm strong enough to do that," and you don't realize that your cup ain't that big for that, whatever that thing is.
Yeah, but
And you become, the word that I often hear people say or use is overwhelmed. Is overwhelmed. Or they'll put it on something like anxiety, right? But you often, especially in our community, we hear folks say these two words in particular, you know, more recent than in the past, but this idea of being overwhelmed. That's, to me, that's that lie that you tell yourself that you're stronger than you actually are, or that you can handle more than you actually can, or you can, if it's one of those things where it requires more than just you, where you say, "Oh, I can do this by myself."
yeah,
The conversation with sisters is this idea that they can do it alone, right?
yeah,
So, like, from a historical context, this comes it comes like it's one of those things where we've lied to ourselves about, I think, to a certain extent, about who we are, and we'll get into that in, at a later date. But we've lied to ourselves, by being stuck in the past. And being stuck in the past, these lies we tell ourselves, it cripples us. It makes us weak. And as far as being a man, it's one of those things where even now, like when I touched on anxiety, like in the manosphere, if you will, constantly hearing people talk about mental health, and I get it. I mean,
because it is real,
right,
yeah, but do
but
you always have to use that as
how much of it is you lying to yourself?
I think sometimes it can go back to prioritizing.
Right.
Like, so instead of you becoming overwhelmed, you sit down and prioritize. Like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this. Give yourself a time frame. You know what I mean? Like, instead of trying to do it all at once, and that way you're not being a procrastinator. Kicking that can down, and then once, say, your deadline is due, then you start feeling overwhelmed and, oh my gosh, I gotta do this, man, I've been doing this, oh, I'm then you develop that, oh, I know I'm strong, like, so, and it's like, are you really that strong, or is this the badge of honor that we, as
right, the conditioning,
yes, have been carrying around for so long? Like, can I take that off?
right,
like, no, like,
and like we've seen that in the co-parenting, the jobs with the spouses, where it say, what'd you say?
I got this.
I got this.
Yeah. But in reality,
yeah, and again in the manosphere, one of the things, and this is one of those. I think I'm gonna do a separate man-to-man video on is this pride, and walking the way I walk with the Most High. I've discovered, at 40 plus years of age, that pride is that pursuit and that desire to be right rather than righteous. And, there's an old saying, I don't know how old and I don't know when I first heard it, but there's a saying where they say pride goes before a fall. So you trying to be right, you gonna miss the cliff you about to fall off on. And bust your head to the white meat. And it by and large it does come at a cost. I think about so many circumstances in my life where, when I be totally honest, just trying to be right, trying to have it my way, lying to myself, not even realizing it in pride, bad outcomes, made bad choices, thinking you're doing a thing for the right reasons. And then once you get on the other side of it and looking at the outcome, you be like, man, I lied to myself about that, so what?
So you got the pride trap, I got the vulnerability.
Right.
Like, being able to be like vulnerable. Like, that's, just find that person. It can be a friend. It can be the professional. Like, just somebody that you can go to, and instead of using that line, everything is fine.
Right.
But in reality, it's not, because now you got this. You have all this strength, but in reality, behind that strength is this total silence. Like, no.
So we've touched on two lies. I mean, actually, we touched on more than two. But the next one that we can talk about is this. And unfortunately, I don't really suffer from this one. I don't think, like, when I evaluate myself in my life, I don't think I ever. Well, maybe a little. I deserve lie. Like, whether it's this or that, or him or her, or like, You know, I remember being a police officer, and I encountering people. Also, also doing some of the type of work that I do now in the residential environment, where you're in and out of people's homes, and you're just talking to people, finding common ground, and you come across, men and women, and for whatever reason, a lot of times it's rooted in childhood, it's rooted in bad experience. It's this I deserve, and it's like, wait a minute, your life hasn't been a bag of poop by mostly your doing, but you deserve all of this. I remember,
Entitlement.
yeah, entitled, exactly.
Entitlement.
That big E. I knew a guy. He had, and as far as I knew, in terms of how long I knew him, he had never had a woman, girlfriend, side chick, wife, nothing. And because he had this long list of requirements. She had to be this size, she had to be this
You had a
complexion.
friend like that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had.
I have a friend like
that
that.
big girl.
She,
And the funny part is, this dude wasn't. He was barely, in terms of physical, he was probably a 3. Like he and this is me looking, no homo, looking at another man
right.
and saying, okay, on the scale of what a woman would look at, where would this dude fall? It was not. It was crazy. It was like, bro, you run around here looking like a gremlin.
Oh dear.
And you got all of these requirements for this woman, and you in your mind, you convince yourself that you go get this woman. Nah, like this, I deserve. This, and it's an insidious lie. And for me, like when I look at it, outside of an outright blatant lie, it's the worst type of lie, because it's the lie that you tell yourself. It's how Lauren say in the uncut. People lie to themselves every day. Why wouldn't they lie to God too? Just that premise, because you lie to yourself all the time. You don't like a person, but your tolerance is, to me, a reflection of how much you're willing to lie to yourself about that person.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's them insidious lies that we tell ourselves, like the dude that I was just talking about, bro.
Yeah. What about the past pain, where just because somebody else treated you a certain way,
well, you try to make me go off script for real.
You decided that when you get with your new spouse, you want to bring all that with you, and treat that person
like ish
horrible, like, no, that ain't a license for a bad behavior. Like, who gave you the license for bad behavior in that?
Right.
No.
Well, I mean,
the
who? I mean, that's a whole different topic. But the lie is the root behind. Yeah, the lie is the root behind
that past pain. No.
Yeah, because we didn't really have that problem. I don't think, right?
No.
We I mean, we came in with issues, but I don't think the issues we came in. Yeah, the issues we came in with, I don't think we were lying about.
Just didn't really fully understand how to navigate them.
Right, how to work through it. Right. Again, faith without work is dead.
Yeah. When you put in the work.
But going again, the insidious type lie, them type lies, going back to the dude, they're also self-sabotaging. Because you done lied to yourself about this particular thing or topic for so long, the question of why you don't have, in this particular case, the question of why you don't have a woman, or you ain't had a woman, it's because you done lied to yourself about everything that you gotta have, not looking at yourself and your situation, and it's self-sabotage.
Yeah, just accepting yourself for who you are, and it'll come when it's time to come, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The and I know we this time in having this conversation, we was trying to make sure we didn't get too personal. So being mindful of that the cycle. Remember talking about that cycle of insanity that's also in this insidious "I deserve" lie. This cycle that we go through, and again I say we because I'm not exempt, but this ain't really a type of lie that I tell. But it's this cycle that people go through, where it's the I'm starting over. Uh, I'm starting over, and then a year later, you be like, "How you doing?" "Oh, I'm starting over." And then the year after that, you see him again. "How you doing?" "I'm starting over." And by definition, this is insanity. This is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I think in that situation you had mentioned uh, self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's realizing that you are really worthy of good things. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to always be bad. Like if you just hold yourself accountable for the actions that you put out, you done wrong. That's on you.
Yeah. That what did I call it? Being the literal demon slayer. Because this lion is a demon, and you like when you start to accept who you are, like in the situation over the holiday, and just accepting, man, I ain't in the mood.
Yeah.
That's self-acceptance. Like, it ain't about you, it's about me. As I said, it ain't you, it's me.
Yeah.
Like I ain't in the mood. No love lost.
Yeah, and you don't want to spill like whatever that mood was for you.
Right.
You don't want that to spill on the other person. So I think that's that grace that you give too, that you've been given to like, okay, realizing and recognizing, okay, I'm not aligning right now. I don't need to open up this door to whatever it was on the other side that would have came in.
Yeah. Now, I as I'm sitting here thinking about it, let me finish that thought, and then I'll come back to that point. Like, I think one of the things that I recognize that I experience with people that have this tendency to lie in the frame of mind of "I deserve" is this tendency to talk out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah, you say that
line. like in one moment, and usually, and I identify all the time. Like I've had that. Me and you've had that back and forth. Like, wait a minute, talking out of both.
And when you realize it, you're like, oh.
Yeah, you say one thing over here, and then immediately, a lot of times it's the very next thing they say is the complete opposite of what they just said.
Yeah, but when you're in that moment and you're just yapping,
right?
You don't really
not listening.
Yeah, you ain't really listening to your own self. Right. You just want to be heard. Wow.
Right.
See how that comes back to this.
and going back to the point that where I was saying that I just kind of popped back in my head was this inside of a lot of these lies, because we don't know and love ourselves like we actually think we do, we end up isolating. And that isolation ends up being a lot of times where the breakdown happens. And it's in the case like when people tell them lies and say, "Oh, I'm too busy," you know, but because we don't know how to properly communicate, or we don't know how to properly or conflict resolution, like, or not realizing it ain't really that serious, because that was one of the things that I struggle with. Like, everybody don't care about you like that. Like, most of the time, like when you go into a place and you're talking to somebody in a restaurant or a grocery store or whatever, most people ain't really listening to you. You just background noise. And like, we tell lies, and most people, after they talk, at least, and maybe I'm speaking too much for myself, but I can tell, I tend to be able to discern when somebody start lying. And I always have. And, I think about times when with the kids, and you would get mad at me because they would be the came to you, and they'd be the told you A, B, and C happened, right? And I'd be like, I don't know about that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. And I'll get the same kid, and I ask questions. And I got a little training in it, but the lie ends up coming out. Yeah. Right?
Because then they'll start saying things, and I'm like, hold on, that's
not what you said.
Yeah.
That talking out of both sides of the mouth.
Say what you said.
It's one of those things where that's the isolation, kind of, where, and you start to see how things break down. And so, like, just in the mindset, of looking at these lies, what are some, I guess, solutions to this in your mind? For me, the is, and when I look at it, it's like when we was talking about them childhood lies, the tap dance and karate. It's being able to look back and say, man, I've been telling this type of lie, and obviously I ain't telling them type of lies no more. Like,
right.
I ain't trying to impress nobody.
Right.
Like, but
and don't go buy me
right.
Tap dance shoes.
Box full of tap dance shoes for Christmas. But it's finding the root. When you looking at, like, and like I said, in that particular type of lie, it's finding the root. Okay, when did I start telling this lie? Why did I start telling this lie? Who do I tell this lie to? Because as one of my loved ones who's gone, one of the things that person would say oftentimes, I can't say it the way that person would have said it, but it's one of those things where the line was, I'll tell you a lie before I tell you the truth, because what effect is it gonna have? Like, what impact is it gonna have? You don't know me. And that person moved like that. And honestly, when I was younger, it was one of those things. Observing that person, it was very influential on certain types of lies that I would tell. And sometimes them particular type of lies, they work in your favor. But, over time, you're like, man, did I really need to do that? Could I got to the outcome that I was trying to get to without having to tell this lie? Because now you got to remember that lie that you told. So, that for me is, I think, in the question of what's the solutions to finding the lies, or fixing the lies, not finding the lies. Well, finding them too, but mostly fixing it is finding the root, looking at it and saying, does this lie serve a purpose? Whether it's protecting your ego, avoiding conflict, control, like, because go ahead. And
I think, like, because you started with the root, but I think the first thing you need to do is get comfortable with it.
Right.
Comfortable with the hard truth, not comfortable with lying, comfortable with the hard truth. If that requires you to write it down, write it down.
Right.
But when you write it down, try not to judge yourself too harsh with it.
Yeah.
Just that is your way of acknowledging it.
Right.
And then yours was the root.
Yeah, like to kind of, I guess, bring them two things together. There's being comfortable, and like I said, you have to look at it from the lens of what does the lie serve? What was the purpose it served? And like if it's control, that's a big one for a lot of people. And again, there's another topic in another video, this control, where for me, I am a controlling person, and both in good and bad. And it's as they say, it's a coin with two different heads. It's that sword with two edges, as they say. And it cut the good just like it cut the bad. And when it's on the positive side, my control allows me to be an entrepreneur. It allows me to be a communicator. It allows me to be the type of father I am, the type of husband I am, but also that control, because I don't really like relinquishing control. And when there's time for me to be a follower, that can be a problem. And that's that. Those are those times when I found that you lie to yourself. You lie to yourself about your capacity in this, whatever it is, or you lie about the person that is in the role to be your leader. And for me, that has showed up many a day. There's a reason why I'm self-employed. In jobs. With that conflict, and it's crazy because I was a police, and after being a police, I still have a problem with 12. The popo.
But when I hear you talk about that, that's where you have replaced the lie with the truth by knowing.
Yeah.
Those.
Yeah, but there's another side of it. There's another side of it. I don't want too much to get into it, but it's some of what the other side is are lies that I've told myself, and that's rooted in I guess courage a little bit, courage and fear, on both sides of that.
Yeah.
But the other one, like the ego,
that's a big one.
that like the ego, the conflict, the control, all of that kind of goes together in that. But you had said something about what to replace, how do you replace the lie?
So when you do look at that particular one where you're, like I just mentioned to him, where you replace the lie,
right?
With the truth.
I didn't see that at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, you got an action for it. So the example that I'm going to use is like, just don't say I'll stop lying. Like that right there. So the lie in that is, example, I can't afford it, right? I can't afford that. The truth would be, I need to track my spending. And the action of that is however you track your spending, whether you're looking at your accounts once a day, twice a day, just so that you'll know that you don't have to tell that lie to yourself that I can't afford it. Because
leave that large Starbucks, is it grande? Stepping on your toes.
Yes.
Leave that large Starbucks every day alone.
That grande.
You wondering why you can't buy whatever it is, but you do the math. You spending
that's when you realize
you spending $10 on a large grande.
That's where you're
20 days out of the week.
All right. Get off my toes, now. Get off my toes.
Oh,
but that is where.
But you just say, "Oh, I ain't got no money."
Right. So it's the lie, the truth, and the action.
Right.
The lie you telling. No, let's look at the truth in the lie, and then take the action.
Right.
That's what I got. What you got?
For me, I think, like I said, it's finding the root and then identifying the fear that's feeding the lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's a demon is a demon, right? So for me, when I evaluate that, the fear is it's an inherent part of it. Like, you know, and this is just one demon, you know, that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about other demons in other videos, but you know, this lie demon, it's inherent, the fear, you know, going back to the holiday situation, this fear of hurting somebody's feelings, or the fear of them thinking you too busy for them, or whatever, you know. And like in that case, it was just I just wasn't in the mood, and so there's this fear you have to be able to identify. You know, like you said, um, get comfortable with it. Like I said, find the root, and like most of the lies we tell, I think, are be rectified by doing that.
Yeah.
You know, replacing, like what you said a minute ago, replacing the lie, you know, with truth and action. You know, like to piggyback on that, and we'll get ready to close. Is like again, I use that because that's wasn't just a day or two ago. My truth was I wasn't in the mood, and my action was like, let me just tell, hey, I ain't in the mood, and let it be.
Yeah.
You know, control what you can control, and you know, I say that a lot. You know, because I understand that God provides. We understand that God provides, and so I think we've exhausted this conversation. Anything else that you remember from the previous conversation that we need to discuss or touch on?
No, I think.
You know, the only thing that I will, and then we'll close, is, you know, lying to yourself about the lie. Like when you know a Negro lying to you, you know it, but you say, "Oh, I know he lying or she lying," and you make an excuse. You make an excuse for their lie to make an excuse for your lie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like you give him the pass because you need a pass.
Yeah.
You know.
No, he's just digging the hole deep.
Right. And y'all, how they say, two wrongs don't make a right.
Yes.
Two lying Negroes together. Like, as in case I don't trust that Joe pass no further than I can. No further than I can spit.
Oh, yours is spit. It was more a seal.
Seal. I can see a long way. I can't spit that far. I don't trust it. No. Mm-mm. And you know that's one of those things where you know that's them self-sabotaging lies. You know, where you lying about the lie that you being told because you don't wanna deal with what come with telling the truth about this whole picture. And like that bit goes into a lot of times in relationship. You know, again, being mindful of how we speak about personal, you know, but I know of scenarios, I put it like that. I know of scenarios where people are in relationships and in the relationship knowing that the baggage that the other person brought into this relationship is going to sink the relationship. It's an anchor. The relationship going to be where it's at because of the baggage that this person came in with. But you lying to yourself about the baggage. You lying to yourself saying, "Oh, he or she gonna do this or that, and we gonna be all right." When at no point in your life, at no point in your life have you ever seen that situation end well. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm being very cryptic and coded because I can't really talk about the scenarios that I'm thinking about without it getting too personal. But it's one of, and I know we're not the only ones, and that's why we have these conversations. And this was one of the conversations like, whoa, because we recorded this 3 times.
Probably.
I think we got it tonight. Right? You think we got it? Okay. So I'm Brother Tezwan.
And I'm Tandra. And
yeah. And we'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you for doing Life with TNT.
And if this video was valuable to you and you made it to this point, please know that we greatly appreciate your support. Also, if you know somebody that needs this content and these videos, please share this content. Last thing, if you want to continue to follow this series, please see the next video in the description below.
His lion,
His courage,
his lamb,
his love,
by what I do,
he see me. Uabe.
I get out of all your boxes, I get out. You can't hold me in these chains, I'll get out. Father, free me from this bondage, knowing my condition is the reason I must change.